Hi, Sandra. How are you?
Well, first, I think we should introduce ourselves and say that we are happy to be here
Mhm.
for the St. Geordie Book Festival 2026. I'm Sandra Smith, and this is my co-translator.
My name's Cory Stockwell. I'm the co-translator, and I'm also very happy and very honored to be here. It's just that, it's a real honor.
Well, we've worked for many years several years on this book, which is finally come to fruition and is coming out on April 21st, cher, amour, which are the letters between Albert Camus and Maria Casarès, his long-standing mistress and basically love of his life. Um, and most people know a lot about Camus, but I found that in Britain and in America, most people don't know much about Casarès. So, Cory, would you like to sort of fill people in a bit?
Yeah, I mean, she was Spanish born, and her family was an important political family in Spain. Her father, in fact, was Prime Minister of Spain in 1936. And due to the political situation in Spain, like many Spaniards, they fled Spain and ended up in France, also like many Spaniards. And Maria Casares is best. Yeah, this is, as Sandra was saying, she's extremely well known in France as an actress or actor in all forms, in on television, in film, and especially in the theater. She held very important posts with the Comédie Française, for instance. She was a regular at the Avignon Festival, which is by far France's largest theater festival. It might be the largest theater festival in the world. Every summer. And in addition to that, she worked with eminent French film directors such as Robert Bresson, Alain Resnais, and Jean Cocteau. So she is somebody who moved in that kind of circles. That's how important of an actress she was.
Yes,
Uh,
and as a couple, she and Camus were really as famous as Sartre and Beauvoir.
yeah,
They were as famous as each other.
yeah,
And also the thing that I found very striking, as Corey said, the family left Spain when Franco was rising and went to England first and then settled in France. And she was a teenager at the time, but it's so unusual for someone who is not a native French
yeah,
speaker to learn French to the height and to the excellence that she did in order to play all of these classical roles
yeah,
by not just the great Molière, Racine, Corneille,
yeah,
but also very, very modern
yeah.
uh, playwrights like Pirandello and work in film and radio and television.
Mhm.
So they when they first met, Maria was only 22 and Camus was 30, I think it was, or 21 and 29, something like that. We should have these facts straight. I apologize. Anyway, he was about 10 years older than her. It was during the war. It was towards the end of the occupation in 1944. And he was married, but he and his wife were separated because of the occupation. His wife was in the South and there was no travel possible. And he was in Paris and he meets Maria at in the theater uh, through the theater crowd.
Yeah.
And she is actually performing, she's acting in one of his plays. And they start this amazing affair. Um, and it's quite interesting that in the book, in this collection of letters, the first 21 letters that we have are all from Camus to Casares. Now, there's mentions, I believe, right, Corey, of her letters.
Yeah,
They're
once in a
not,
while he'll say, "Thanks for this. I'm responding to this. You
but we
asked it,
don't,
you asked that." Yeah.
but we don't have those letters, unfortunately. Um, but even though they're having this passionate affair, when peace breaks out, as it were, when the war
Mhm.
ends and the occupation ends, Camus begins to feel extremely guilty. His wife Francine is coming back to Paris to join him. And so he decides in October 1944 that he has to break up with Maria. So this is the 20th letter. And Corey, do you want to read that one?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm reading not the entire letter, but passages from it that will give the viewer and listener the picture of what's going on, I think. So this is Paris, October, dated Paris, October 1944, 1:30 p.m. Soon you'll arrive, and I'll tell you as calmly as I can what I still want to tell you. Afterwards, it will be over. But I don't want us to part looking sadly at each other, trying to convey in vain what cannot be conveyed. Farewell, my dear, dear love. My hand is trembling as I write this. Take care of yourself, keep yourself safe. Make sure you become someone great. My heart is breaking at the thought of all the times when you won't be with me in the future. But if I knew you were a great artist, equal to what you are, or happy in your own way, I would forget about myself and would be content. I then believe that I did not diminish anything in you, and that this unhappy love has not harmed you. It's another false consolation, but it's the only one I have. Farewell again, ma chérie, and may my love protect you. I send you kisses, kisses for all the years without you. I kiss your dear face with all the painful and terrible love I have in my heart. And then he signs it with the initial A.
Yes, really. It's a very sad letter.
Yeah.
Um, but he feels morally obligated. Most people don't know this, but Camus had been married before when he was very young. When he was 20, I think he got married. And so he'd been divorced. Uh, his first wife had mental issues. She was an addict. She was addicted to drugs, etc. And I think that that had something to do with his feeling that he didn't want to get divorced again at this
Right.
point. And they didn't have any children when in 1944 when they broke up because they
Mhm.
did break up. They didn't see each other again for a couple of years, at
Mhm.
least 2 years.
Mhm.
Um, in the meantime, Camus' wife Francine had their children. She had twins, Catherine and Jean. And then, in theory, according to Camus' daughter, Catherine, they ran into each other on the Boulevard Saint-Germain, and it all started up again. And the letters actually continue right until 4 days before he was killed in a car accident.
Mhm.
So it was a very, very deep and lasting relationship. But while, the cover and a lot of the publicity is pitching these letters as love letters, and they are. I mean, there is no
Yep.
doubt about it. They are. But there's so much more to them. They talk about their work. They talk about their day-to-day lives. Some of the letters are very mundane,
Mhm.
just sort of saying their day-to-day routines um, and some of them are very funny as
Yep.
well. So we have a couple of examples of those. So, Corey, do you want to sort of say anything about before I read the next letter, which is kind of a quirky letter from Maria?
Yeah, I mean, the thing people, it's interesting. I actually, I've gotten back into letter writing recently, and it's just so beautiful. It's therapeutic in a way, right? This person who receives it isn't just getting the same font as they get from, right? You literally feel the person in the letter. And these people, they would write sometimes, as you get into the book, they're writing each other three times, 3 and 4 times a day, right? I mean, I mentioned that this isn't the case for the letter I read, but he says 1:30 p.m. It's because he's writing people all day long, right? His correspondence takes a long time. And so what I'm leading into saying is that you really see all aspects of their personalities in the letters. And she's just, I mean, Sandra, you used the word quirky, and that's the case, but like I'd say in the most positive sense, right? I mean, she's got a vast array of interests, right? I mean, she's an actress and she's famous but she's also a very, very cultured person. She's reading in Spanish and she's reading in French, as we'll see in the letter to come. Uh, she's going out dancing with her friends. She's got friends who are in the theater world. She's got friends who are just people she's met. She's got many kind of Spanish exile friends as well. And all of that, these various elements of her personality and her character come out in the letters, right? So you wouldn't call her an intellectual, but she's certainly an extremely well-rounded person, I think.
I think I would call her an intellectual,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to show this picture again so that because again, if you look closely at her, you might recognize her from some of the
Right.
films, even though you don't know her name, as it were, recognize immediately. And the when people ask me, "Oh, who was she exactly?" The best example is to say that if you've seen Cocteau's film of Orpheus, she plays Death. She plays the
All
lead. She
right.
plays the character of Death, and then most people know who she is. Um, I found it very funny also, and um, reading some of her letters where she had this voracious appetite.
Yeah.
There are some letters where she has like 6 courses of food, and and she can't gain an ounce. I mean, we
Yeah.
should all have this problem.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really funny. So anyway, I'm going to read this letter. This is what she writes to him. And this is in August of 1948 evening, it says. So finally, they're here. Oh, mon chéri, I needed to feel the joy at first faint, then stronger, and finally immense at receiving your 2 letters at the same time. To be able to understand my state of depression, emptiness, and near anguish these past days. Anyway, here is a brief outline of my austere life. Diet: water, 10 cigarettes a day. Get up at 8, go to bed midnight. Activities in order of importance: taking care of my father all day long, reading. Finished War and Peace. What a book! The Pleiades, admirable in just the right way. The Demons, odd gibberish, brilliant perhaps, but it didn't hold my interest. Taking care of my dog, Katsu, morning and evening. Going on bike rides, morning at 10, evening at 6. Sleep, eat. Then she ends with, I'm here, very close by at every moment, thinking of you, praying to my God for our love, and wanting our love more than anything. I ask only one thing of you, to see me the way I see you, and that it never ends. I love you and send you passionate kisses. When I think of you with a tan, I could faint. I love that line. I think
Yeah.
it's so funny.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so they really miss each other. And of course, because they're both so famous and on tours and giving lectures and traveling, they are apart a lot, which
Hmm.
explains, why there are 865 letters.
Yeah. And
But
it's
they have
interesting.
12,
They're
15 years.
Yeah, they're also postmarked from all over, right? She sends letters from at least 4 continents, at least, right? He sends letters from, I guess, 3. She's in Montreal, she's in Rio, she's in Moscow, she's in Algeria, she's in Morocco, she's all over Europe, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's quite
Sure.
amazing.
And
Yeah,
he traveled, of course, as well.
yeah,
Um, this next letter that we're going to read, Corey's going to read it, is one of my favorites because it's so very funny. Uh, some some of you might know that Camus wrote a very serious play called Caligula, based on the Greek Caligula, and it was produced. A play of it was produced, a version in London in 1949, and Camus goes to London to be at the rehearsals and the premiere, the opening, and it's kind of a disaster. So, Corey, do you want to read?
absolutely. Yeah. So this one's dated Monday. Camus just wrote Monday, 10 o'clock, but it's determined from the context that it was written on March 7th, 1949. And he writes, My darling love, I got to London on Sunday. It was snowing, and the city was absolutely deserted. I was met by Daddleson, an old friend, and the director, accompanied by his two actors, a delicious Caesonia and her husband, Caligula, whom I noticed happened to look like an ice cream vendor. You know, from behind those little carts. Then on to a Greek restaurant where we dug into Greek food, which is generally speaking bad, and prepared in the English way even worse. I went to the hotel, satisfactory, to rest my tormented stomach. Then the rehearsal. Once there, I had a few surprises. Scipio had a misshapen spine that made him look disabled. The old senator had one hand that was paralyzed. Cherea was wearing a cherry red toga. Caesonia a transparent dress from the Folies Bergère that revealed her legs right up to her Delta of Delights, as it's called in the Thousand and One Nights. On the stage, there was a full-length statue of Pericles that was 2 or 3 meters high, and an oval mirror that must have come from Barbès, in a style taken from right out of the subway. And to top it all off, many cloaks were draped around him. The Rome of the Caesars was furnished and dressed as if brought from the flea market at the Porte de Saint-Ouen. They began, and I started to understand that everything made sense. Caligula, if not an ice cream vendor by day, should have sold shish kebabs on the Boulevard des Chasseurs in Oran, or brushes on the Boulevard Voltaire, or been a sex tourist guide in the Barrio Chino. The Byronian emperor came up to my shoulders. He had greasy, curly hair, was visibly sweating, and had padding around his stomach. It's Nero after eating a meal in the ancient Greek way. He has passion but no style. He acts using instinct, as they say, which means he doesn't understand a word of his script. After that, I thought I was resigned to anything. How naive! I hadn't foreseen the ballet. For there are ballets. When Caligula takes Mucius's wife away, 3 dancers, half Abyssinian, half Franciscan, mime love on the stage in 32 positions. They grab each other's thighs and with their backs to the audience rub their butts against each other. In the second act, Caligula, dressed as Venus, performs a ballet with the same foot soldiers. Imagine a donut seller dancing with falsies, and has his ass grabbed by the honorable troupe. This last blow having done me in, I left to get a scotch. But it was too late and there was only coffee, which I drank to forget and which prevented me from sleeping part of the night. To finish me off, I was dragged back to the Greek restaurant, which kept me up for the other part of the night. I slept for 1 hour, dreaming of hideous ballets where I was dancing with King George VI. The worst part is that on Tuesday evening, an audience of ambassadors and elegant high society women are invited to watch these very French audacities to get an idea of the French theater. I'll be there, dreaming of only one thing, to disappear until it's time to get on the plane. Until Wednesday, ma chérie, I hold you close, pressing you tightly against me. A.
Yeah. Um, I simply can't imagine his reactions. I mean, he explains it extremely well, but it must have been a real shock. Um, but so we've seen sort of the quirky side and the funny side, but it was really not always easygoing for them. There was a lot of tension. Um, it's the fact that Camus had told Maria he would never leave his wife and children. That
Mm.
that was just not on the table. And even though his wife knew about the affair, everyone did. They were a famous couple.
Mm.
Um, it was never smooth sailing. There were times when they would really take it in turns, feeling insecure, and then the other one would have to reassure them, etc. So, and the other thing was that towards the end of the 1940s, the 49, 50, a couple of things happened that made it, in a way, easier for them to communicate and see each other, but more difficult for us as translators because there were telephones,
Yeah.
and telephones were much more common. And also there was commercial flights. So when he was in the South, because Camus had tuberculosis, and he often had to go to the South on cures, or go away somewhere for cures. Um, but they could fly. They could actually spend
Mm.
weekends together, which means that there are gaps sometimes in the correspondence, and we don't know
Yeah.
what transpired when they actually saw each other or when they spoke on the phone. So we can only infer from some of the letters. Um, and in this next letter, which is from Maria, um, in June 1949, um, they've clearly they've had a big fight. They've
Mm.
something's happened, and so I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this letter 60. Forgive me, mon chéri. Forgive me for being so mean, so mean. I love you so much. I'm so very unused to loving this way. I'm so overwhelmed by this rage. It is sometimes sweet and sometimes violent, and it seizes control of me more each day and leads me where? I'm almost afraid of it. If you suddenly were gone, if you had died, if I had to live with the idea that you don't exist anymore, what would happen? Tonight, I'm thinking about that constantly, and I'm filled with such a feeling of dizziness that if it wouldn't wake you up, I think I'd get dressed and head straight to you, for you are the only one who can console me. Take care of yourself. Take good care of yourself. Enjoy in pain, yet always happy because of you. I need your presence so much. I need your smiles, the laughter, the confidence you give me, the sadness and anger you bring me. But why am I in so much pain? 2.5 months pass rather quickly, and afterwards you'll be here close enough to touch. Almost. Chérie, can you feel my heart beating within you? Can I hope to bring you sweetness, fulfillment, new strength, if only you knew? What kind of abominable God puts a chasm that can never be filled between two people who love each other so much and are so close to one another? Why am I not allowed to know if the immense tenderness that fills my heart tonight is making its way to you, surrounding you, lulling you, bringing you sleep that is as good, calm, and sweet as the death of a saint? Why leave us here to shout without making a sound, to gesture in the dark? Why? So it was really difficult. Uh, Maria had to accept the situation
Yeah.
with about his wife, who clearly knew that, they were a couple. In fact, she says, I would get dressed and come to you. He had an apartment in Paris. He had a studio apartment in the same building as René Char, which is going to come in later on. It's very, very essential to this whole
Mhm.
book. But Francine was very had a lot of mental problems, And she actually, once she tried to commit suicide by throwing herself off the balcony, and Camus caught her. He stopped her.
Yeah.
But
But you can see, I think their emotions really run the gamut, right? Sometimes Maria wants to, she doesn't care. I'll love you forever. I don't care, even if I can only see you once in a while. And then sometimes it's kind of the opposite, as we'll see shortly, right? And then sometimes it's just a struggle. It's somewhere in between where she's just, I don't know what to do. It's too hard because she's clearly deeply, deeply in love with. I mean, he's the love of her life. So,
yes, and after he died, she didn't marry for 19 years, and it was a marriage of convenience with André Schlesser because she needed French nationality. She needed
right.
French citizenship. Um, but yeah, I'll just read a very short section. This is 1950. Um, Obviously, they'd had a big phone conversation, and she says, if I hung up in tears and despair, it's not only because of our situation and the future it might bring us. It's mostly because of a meanness towards you that I'm discovering in myself, which horrifies me. So, it was she was really struggling, but she
Mhm.
then tries she reassures him, and she says, whether by joy or by pain, you've made me what I am and what I'll remain right to the end. And I'll thank you for that until the end of my life. I still don't know what confusion or madness caused me to scream such abominations at you. I beg you to forgive me. I confess to you just now that I can't keep going with the life we've been leading up to now, if that life must be shared with another woman. And she says that if they have to break up, she'll still be close to him, but
Yeah.
um, the only way to avoid the meanness, she says, this vile taste in my mouth that I get at the mere thought of there being three of us.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult for her. But
Yeah.
then she ends with saying, I'll never leave you.
No.
Swear as long as I can make you happy, I'll never leave you. So there's really a real conflict of emotions. And of course, Camus replies to this letter right away. And
Yeah.
he describes his moral dilemma, being he's caught between really loving Maria and really feeling responsible for his wife and children.
Yeah, I can read a part of this, the letter that he writes her, as you said, almost immediately. He says, this is Tuesday, 5 p.m. That's all he puts, but we know that it was April 11th, 1950. I was expecting your letter. I knew what it would say, more or less, and despite my dismay and sadness, I had prepared myself to respond to your doubts, to support you, to defend our love. But since I read your letter, all I feel is a great surge of tenderness and love, the desire to protect you and have you part of my life, no matter how difficult that may be. No, my darling Maria, I'm not ready to give up or accept defeat. My deepest urge at this moment is to be done with it all and leave everything behind so I can be with you again and fall asleep next to you until I'm cured. I've resisted that feeling until now in the name of a masculine desire that I understand less and less and which sometimes fills me with horror. But I have never, not for a single day, thought about a separation. There have been moments when I faltered, which left me imagining the extreme unhappiness I caused you. It was then that I told myself that I was destroying your life in an irreparable way. So even if I gave up everything to live with you, there would still be a part of my life that was separate from ours, a part that could not be destroyed, which you would always feel pulled me away from you. And I imagined that I was perhaps preventing you from finding a free, fulfilling type of love without the obligations that will always be mine, even if I deny them. It's true that I want to be able to love you without completely neglecting my responsibilities toward those who depend on me. I simply can't live without your love, and I fear not knowing how to live properly if I can't respect myself. But perhaps that isn't possible, and that at the end of everything will also be the loss of both your love and my self-respect. I kiss your dear hands and your mouth with pain and joy, with passion and loyalty. A. And yeah, This, on the one hand, he's admitting his what he calls his very male desires, although he understands them less and less. And on the other hand, he feels guilty for preventing her from finding somebody whom she could actually be with, right? So yeah, it's a tricky situation.
And that was in 1950. And then the relationship lasts another 9 years, nearly
Yeah,
10 years, until he dies. Um, but I'm going to read this next one. This is from her Albert Camus to Maria Casarès, but I'm just reading a very brief portion because
sure.
I think this is one of the most romantic. I picked this little paragraph out. Um, and this is in 1956. So, now they've been together a very long time. And another um, little fact that's very interesting is that every year on the anniversary of the day they met, he sends her a ring. And in French, it's an anneau. And there's two words in French for ring. There's anneau and there's bague. Une bague can be any kind of ring, but an anneau is traditionally a wedding ring. It's a wedding band. So, she's got many of these rings. And this is just very quickly, and this was in 56. Mon cher amour, when you reach a certain degree of mutual passion, hearts meld together into something that can no longer be given a name, where boundaries disappear and distinctions, something that makes you think of what eternity might be like, if that word could have a meaning. In the past, at the height of passion and pressure, I fought against you, against your presence in my life. And now, if I try to imagine this life without you, or when I'm living it alone, I feel torn apart. It's been a very long time since I stopped fighting against you, and I know that whatever happens, we will live and die together. Of course, that's not what happens,
Yeah, yeah,
is it?
yeah. But I like that you pulled this out, Sandra, because it's just I mean, we've been talking about how bookish they are, how cosmopolitan they are, and how fraught the relationship was, but there's also just the element of pure romance to the letters, right? Where they're just gushing with love for one another. And this is, I think, a great example of that.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess we're gonna have to like skip down to towards the end.
oh, sure.
The December 4th, 1959. Now, Camus was killed in the car accident on January 4th, 1960. So exactly 1 month later. And he's down in the South with his family and friends. And he's trying desperately to finish the first draft of his new book, which we know now it was Le Dernier Homme, the last man. And he obviously never got to finish it, but it was posthumously published. What he had done, what he had managed to do with it, and they're speaking to each other on the phone, and he's looking forward. She's missing him terribly, and so he writes to her after they've been on the phone again. We don't know what was said, but we can infer from this letter. So,
Yeah,
Cory.
and keep in mind, yeah, this is shortly before he died, as Sandra was just saying, right? So I'll read it out. Mon cher amour, you seemed sad and distant the other day on the phone, and I haven't stopped thinking about you. Perhaps I made you sad as well when I said I didn't know if I'd get back to Paris before Christmas. Though I do want to come back and see you, to shake off a bit of the burden of silence I feel in myself at the moment. But at the same time, I know I've given myself 8 months, and 8 months only, to finish the first draft of the monster I'm in the process of producing. I think the way things are organized here allows me to make progress and work continuously, and that good sense, bitter good sense, demands that I stay here until I get back on January 2nd. So I must persevere whatever the cost. But in truth, these sensible feelings don't stand up when I think I might be making you sadder by staying, or at night when I feel an impatient desire to see you again. I don't know. I'll see. Wait. Tell me what you think, without being generous-hearted. And if you need my presence, just tell me. And oh my God, I will hear that with such joy, and I'll rush to you with such joy, ready to take up the yoke of work afterward with new vigor. I was hoping for a letter from you today, but the strike has disrupted the postal service, and I'm receiving mail in drips and drabs. I'm hoping to read something from you, to see you, to hold you close. I'm unhappy about this life I share between work that requires harsh solitude and my need for warmth and love. But I'm afraid of being uncreative the way others are afraid of death. Do not doubt my constant, grateful, exuberant love. Without you, the world would lose its light, a light that I can see from a distance at this moment, thinking about you constantly and cherishing you more than ever. I hold you close, ma chérie, my beauty, my love. I hold you close once more.
Yeah. And then he replies, oh no. She replies, rather.
Yeah.
She
Mhm.
replies, oh no, stay, mon chéri, stay where you are and work. Of course, I miss you, but I prefer to wait to see you delivered from your great burden, later, lighter, close to me, maybe in Brittany, in the still virgin Brittany of the month of June, or July at a push. Stay where you are, believe me. I'll call you tomorrow morning, mon amour. I kiss you with all my strength, all my heart, all my love. So when I, first, but getting this is towards the end. I mean, this is letter 859. Um, I was when you have the pre-knowledge, you know very well that he's going to get killed in a car accident
Yeah.
on January 4th. And if she had just said, come back, please come back early. Yes, come back early. He would have gotten on a plane or a train and he would
Mm.
have not been
Yeah.
killed.
Yeah.
And so, it was very difficult while, translating and reading this, that having this knowledge ahead of time.
Yeah.
And and then he writes to her um, again that in reply to this letter, she's obviously been filming with Cocteau, the movie I mentioned earlier, the Orpheus, where she plays Death. It's a great film. If you haven't seen it, it's a really amazing modern version. In fact, Picasso makes a cameo appearance in it just for a couple of seconds. But um, so he writes to her, and yeah. So Corey, maybe just read some of this.
Yeah, absolutely. As Sandra is saying, shortly before he dies, right? I just got finally and together your two letters, mon cher amour, with relief because I don't like the thought that one of our letters might get lost either. And also because such a long silence weighed on me and made me worry. I'm pleased you found the movie with Cocteau bearable. Cocteau is who he is, but in the end, he's someone who creates and does something. What makes Paris and soon all of France insufferable is the crowd of critics, the audience, the sideshow, and everyone who should have or could have, but did nothing, or not very much, but who stand by and judge other people who, in their eyes, never do what they should, and which they would have done if only the others hadn't, if only they hadn't been unlucky. As for me, I'll stay here in the end because I have a chance to make such good progress by the 1st of January that I'm sure I'll finish the first draft before June. I must tell you that the book will be 500 to 600 pages at least. Then I'll have to get it into shape, spruce it up, and I could do that even while working in Paris. Which doesn't prevent me, despite all these good resolutions, from missing you, your love and our secrets and your lovely warmth. Oh no, you are not a saint as Madeleine Renaud thinks. And yet you are my saintly guiding light, my protectress and my lover. Ah, the day when I finally finish this book will be the day I become 10 years younger. I'll take you to Bermuda and we'll go on our 20th honeymoon. For the moment, it's austerity, daily barrenness, tension. But knowing that you are on this earth and close to me gives me patience and courage. You, who I love, it's not enough to kiss you. I must pour all my breath into you. I bless my fate, my lucky star, and I also know very well that I wasn't worthy, that 15 years ago, nothing within me deserved to meet a heart like yours, which since then, even from afar, has never stopped encouraging me, helping me, lighting up my days and my life. Yes, I bless you, my tender love, and thank you once more with all my heart. A.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the final letter. I have to say that it was really difficult for Cory and I to choose a selection of the letters for this recording for the St. Geordie Festival because there are so many of them. Uh, but um, the reason that we have these letters is because, as I mentioned before, Camus had a studio apartment, and it was in the same building as his very close friend, the famous poet René Char. And they each had keys to their each other's apartments. Um, and it was when, after Camus was killed in the car accident, it was all over the news, of course. And Char actually went to Camus' apartment and took all of the letters to give, and he gave them all to Maria Casarès because he knew that if Francine got hold of the letters, that she would probably destroy them.
Yeah.
And he knew how important they were to both him, to Camus and to Casarès, to the extent that they kept 865 letters between them, which is incredible. And um, that's why we have them today. Well, there's a little bit more to it, but Cory, if you just read the very last letter,
Yeah, absolutely.
this is
Excuse me.
4 days before the car accident.
Yeah, the very end of 1959, he writes this letter. Good. The last letter. Just to tell you that I'll be arriving on Tuesday, driving up with the Gallimards on Monday. They're coming here on Friday. I'll call you when I get there, but perhaps we could already agree to meet for dinner on Tuesday. Let's say we'll do that in theory, unless there are problems on the road, and I'll call you to confirm dinner. I'm already sending you a huge amount of loving wishes and hope that life will bring you joy throughout the whole year, giving you the cherished expression that I have loved for so many years. But I love your face even when it looks worried as well, and however it looks. I'm folding your raincoat into this envelope, and with it, all the sun in my heart. See you soon, my exquisite woman. I'm so happy at the thought of seeing you again that I'm laughing as I write this to you. I've closed up my files and I'm no longer working. Too much family and too many family friends. So I no longer have any reason to deprive myself of your laughter and our evenings together or my homeland. I hold you close, hold you tightly to me until Tuesday, when I will begin again. A.
He never gets there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are these real moments of premonition in the letter, right? Where he says, right, the last letter, that's the sentence of it. That's the second.
And then he says, unless there are problems on the road.
Yeah.
And this is after he's offered to go early, and she says, no, stay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was really difficult, that one, I found. But what what actually happened, he'd been in his house in the south in Lourmarin since November, and he left for Paris on January 3rd with Michel Gallimard of the famous Gallimard publishing family. They were very close friends. And with Janine Gallimard, Michel's wife, and um, with Francine and Janine were in the back seat. And Michel Gallimard was driving, and he lost control of the car, and the car hit a tree. Camus was killed instantly, and Michel died, I think, 5 days later in the hospital. And then, as we said, these letters were saved really by René Char. And
Yeah.
Char, Camus quotes a lot of Char's poetry throughout the letters to Maria. There's also this other book, which is about Maria Casarès. It's called L'Unique Maria Casarès by Anne Plantagenet. Um, it's not available in English, but there's a lot of details in there about Maria that I didn't know. And so apparently Maria was convinced to write her own memoir, and she contacted Francine to ask permission to publish as part of her book some of the letters. I think there were only four of the letters that Camus had written, and Francine said no. She refused to give her permission. But after she died, a few years after she died, you have to remember that Maria knew the children as well. Maria knew Jean and Catherine, and she and Catherine had a very good relationship. And it was after she continued this relationship, and after Francine died, um, when Maria was getting on in years, Catherine was the one who asked her if she could buy the letters from her. And she agreed. She gave them, she trusted Kathleen. And that's why we have them. That's
Mhm.
why, preserved and published now. And it must have been quite a task for the editors in the French version because they were probably working from the original handwritten letters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There would be a work of deciphering going on, right?
But
And also ordering and so forth, right? Sometimes there will be a letter that they're not able to date, and they just kind of do their best and make an educated guess and say, I think it goes here, right? But most of them they can date pretty precisely from the references. And sometimes the letters are just dated. Often hers are.
and I really like the way the book looks and the way it came out because um, it's really beautifully done. The paper's fabulous quality, but it's very important also that at the back of the book there are several. There's index of names and index of works.
Yeah.
So really, for anyone who's doing any kind of work, research, or just interest in anything specific, it's very easy to look up, the name of a play or a film that Maria was in,
Yeah.
uh, and to go to that particular letter. I mean, it's 1,200 pages. It's not the kind of book that you're going to potentially read cover to cover, but it is the kind of book that you could pick up and open at any letter
Yeah.
and you'll learn something
Yeah.
things that we couldn't know really about these two very famous people. And I did
Yeah.
wonder how they might feel about the correspondence being published.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that would be yeah, because it's just so intimate, right?
So intimate, yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows so many different facets of their personalities that they were very, they were public figures, but they were very private people. And that comes out a lot in the letters too.
Yeah. Another thing with the letters is just it's like a slice of French life in an extremely interesting time, right? Post-war France, and this is what the French call the beginning of the 30 glorious years. And they're just sort of reveling in it all. And for anybody who's interested in that period, which was just bursting with great cinema and great, literature, and these people are, oh, I saw so and so today. I saw this person yesterday, right? They're talking to, right? They're just everybody involved in the French intellectual and artistic scene. It's just a fascinating kind of slice of that life.
Yeah, and of course, Camus won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1957, and she writes him she sends him a telegram or something
Yeah,
like, "Oh, mon chéri, I'm so proud of you."
yeah, yeah,
She's really sweet, you know.
yeah,
Anyway, I think we're going to have to wrap up, but
yeah.
the last thing I want to say is thank you to Corey because I couldn't have done this without you. And I think it was really fun working together, even though it was difficult. The work itself was
Yeah, yeah.
difficult, but but it's been great. It's my first co-translation, and
Mhm.
it was really very successful. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you. No, I owe you a tremendous amount of thanks, and I'm very grateful.
Well, we should end on that positive note.
Yeah.
I hope that everyone at St. Geordie Festival enjoys our recording and have a look at the letters when you have a chance. Au revoir.
Au revoir.